went into the September tournament wanting to get top 50%. That would be my best from any live tournament or even the monthly onlines that I've done. So that was my goal. I always set progressive goals. So it was going to be top 50%, top 25, and then so on up to, always aiming for first. Only 25 people were in the online tournament this month, so that made 12th or better what I wanted to do. I started off really strong. My first fish for the month was 19 inches, which that was great. That's the longest fish I've measured in a tournament. I've caught fish that I'm pretty sure were bigger, but I didn't measure or weigh them. I was just excited to catch fish. I followed that one up with one that was 14 and a quarter. I went ahead and submitted that just to make sure that, I wanted to get 5 fish in and then focus on getting bigger fish. After those 2 fish, I was briefly first for a few days, partly because I was one of the only people that caught fish in the month. So that was kind of a good motivation. Obviously didn't stick, but that was nice. So next one I caught was 18 and a quarter inches. I caught this one, and this one's memorable because it was such a struggle. I went completely downsized. I was not getting any bites the whole time I was out, so I started throwing a Ned rig with the TRD craw on it. It was one of the weedless ones that has the wire weed guards. It was tough where I was fishing it because I kept getting snagged, but I know that that will get bites, right? So I did get a bite, and it was a healthy bite, and the fish just ran like crazy, and so it took off and ended up doing a loop around a clump of grass. So I get that guy up. It was a long fight. I mean, he took me all over that cove. I was on a medium light spinning rod, right? So not something to really horse a big bass around on. So I finally got up to the surface and I could see the clump of weeds, but the fish I could tell was still under there. So I had to really extend my net out just to get enough under it. So I finally got the fish up and the fish out, got him on the board, got him measured and everything. And the clump of weeds weighed way more than the fish, almost twice as much as the fish. So that was a lot to bring up on a medium light spinning rod with an 8-pound test leader. So that one was pretty memorable, and he was a good looking fish, just really nice and thick. So those 3 stayed on the board, those first 3. That day I also caught a 14 inch, and then I caught a 13 and a quarter inch, and those 2 ended up getting called because I caught bigger fish as we went. I also reset up my anchor wizard, and I did it 2 different ways. I did it off the bow, which is where I prefer it. That way I'm always facing into the wind or into the current, which I feel like I fish better that way. It seems more natural if you're dragging something back and it's going with the current as opposed to going against the current. The issue with that is the way I like to load my kayak, the chute for the anchor wizard gets in the way. So that's kind of silly to hamper my fishing, but in order to make these monthly things work, I've got to be able to just grab the kayak, load it, and go, because I might only have an hour or 2. So I got to get to water, get it out, quick. It's super handy to have an anchor. That was critical for me earlier on, and then I quit doing it because it was just seemed like an extra step, but I've come back to realize that I really like it. Next fish was 15 and 3/4, and at that point I had 5 on the board, and I was sitting in 12th place, like exactly 12th place for almost 2 weeks. I fished when I could. I must have caught 3 dozen 13-inch largemouth bass. It was just ridiculous. Everywhere I went, it was like, wow, here's a whole bunch of 13-inch fish. Just frustrating in that regard. And that was on the biggest baits I could. I had a big 120 size Berkeley Chapo I was catching, 11 to 13 inch fish on that thing. And I eventually got tied it was like 81.5 inches, and someone tied me, but their biggest was a 17 and mine was 19. So held on to that 12 for a few weeks. And my second to last outing, I went back to where I caught that 19 incher, and I ended up getting one that was 18.75. So that was a good healthy fish. And that one bumped me up, but only into 10th. It put me at 86 inches total and bumped me to 10th place, which is, hey, my goal was 12 or better, so I got the goal. Went out one last time on the 29th. I knew I wouldn't get out. The tournament ended the 30th at 6 p.m. So I knew I wouldn't get out on the 30th, so I went out the 29th. I went to a place that, for some reason, when I'm in a boat, I catch fish, but I've never caught a fish from the kayak on this body of water I went to. I didn't catch anything. I would see bass jumping. I threw a whole variety of top waters. I did have, again, I was throwing one of those Berkeley Choppos. I was throwing a smaller one. I had 4 bass swipe and just totally miss. I mean, they were a foot behind it. It wasn't even like a near miss, So I tried to slow down and thinking, hey, if it's slower, maybe they'll, catch it before it gets too far. But that didn't happen either. They just didn't like it moving slow. So when I reeled it fast, they would jump at it, but just way too late. So anyway, that one wasn't productive as far as fish went, but it was productive in that it was a nice time out on the boat. Just enjoying being out on the water. I took a nice picture of a sunset through a bridge, and there we go. There's September. I did end up in 10th place. Again, goal achieved. I'm not doing the October monthly. I got to balance fishing with like the rest of my life, right? I might do the November online. We'll see how that is going, how that's looking weather-wise, whether I do it. Just looking forward to next year. I might keep looking at motors. 2 things that I might change. One is add a motor to the light tackle, so I could get, if nothing else, knowing that if I get far away and I wear myself out, I've got an easy way back. So I might go cheap and just stern mount one and just a cheapish marine battery and just use it for making those long runs. Ideally, I think I'd get the Motor Guide XI3 and mount that up on the bow, but I don't know if I'm ready for that amount of money to spend on the kayak motor. The other thing I'd like to do is get a small, much more portable boat. I mean, I've got that Old Town Vapor, but it's a sit-in. It's a little, I don't know, it's a little hard to handle a fish in a sit-in kayak. I can do it, but if I had a smaller, lighter sit-on, so no budget, I think I would go and get that Hobie Mirage Lynx. That thing looks awesome. I mean, 45 pounds, and then it's the pedal drive, and it looks super fast too. I saw someone clocking it with a GoPro at almost 7 miles an hour, which that would be pretty awesome. But I don't know that I'm gonna want to spend almost $3,000 on a second kayak. I love fishing out of the light tackle. I love paddling it. So maybe just adding a motor and then getting by with the Old Town if I want to go to something that's a little hard to get to. Anyway, so we'll see what 2022 brings, and I'll keep updating with other fishing stuff for sure. I don't know how much I'll be out on the kayak as it gets colder, and since I'm not doing tournaments, these really drive me to be on the kayak. It's definitely my preferred way of fishing, but I can't interact with my family while we're doing that. So probably have more time out on the pontoon. Might do more looking for crappie, catfish, that type of stuff in the meantime during the fall. So till then, That's what I got.